I was on the ground in my own front yard, grass in my mouth, my arm burning where it scraped against stone, while my HOA president stood over me and said, "Who do you think they're going to believe?" 15 minutes later, the police were pulling up, lights flashing, and one of them was already reaching for his handcuffs. What she didn't know, what nobody there knew yet, was that every second of what she'd just done was caught on camera, and that I wasn't just another homeowner she could crush. Let me take you back to the beginning. I had owned that house for exactly 4 hours. 4 hours. That's it. The moving truck had just pulled away from Willow Creek Estates, a quiet little HOA neighborhood just outside Richmond. 4-bedroom colonial white siding, brick steps, pink azaleas lining the walkway. The kind of place people describe as safe and well-maintained, the kind of place where neighbors wave and kids ride bikes in circles at dusk. After 18 months of a brutal divorce, that house was supposed to be my reset. No headlines, no courtrooms, no politics. Just me, a mortgage, and a chance to breathe again. I was carrying my third box toward the front door when I heard heels on concrete. Sharp, deliberate, expensive. I turned, already bracing myself for some kind of introduction, and saw her standing at the edge of my driveway. Blonde, late 50s, arms crossed tight across her chest, pearls at her neck, designer sunglasses pushed up into her hair like a crown. She looked at my house the way a code inspector looks at a condemned building. Then she looked at me. "You don't belong in this neighborhood." That was it. No hello, no welcome, no smile. Just 5 words, cold and heavy, dropped like a verdict. I blinked once, mostly to buy myself time. "Excuse me, who are you?" she said slowly, like she was talking to a child. "And what are you doing here?" "Naomi Harris," I replied, keeping my voice even. "I just bought this house." Her lip curled. "The previous owners never mentioned selling to someone like you." Someone like you? I'd heard that phrase before. In courtrooms, in boardrooms, in spaces where black women weren't expected to occupy power, property, or peace. "I'm sure we'll get along just fine," I said. She laughed, sharp and humorless. "We'll see. This community has standards." Then she turned and walked away, heels clicking like a countdown. That was Linda Crawford. I learned her name later that afternoon from Johnny Gonzalez, my neighbor across the street. Mid-30s, easy smile, the kind of guy who shows up without being asked. As he helped me stack boxes in the foyer, he lowered his voice. "Just fair warning. Linda's the HOA president. Corner house. She's got strong opinions about everyone who isn't her." I smiled thinly. I've worked in law enforcement long enough to handle difficult personalities. He raised an eyebrow like he knew something I didn't, but he let it go. By 5 o'clock that evening, a security company had finished installing 3 cameras, front yard, driveway, side entrance. Professional habit. 20 years in the justice system teaches you one thing above all else: documentation wins cases. I was on the back porch, later glass of wine in my hand, trying to convince myself that first impressions can be wrong. They weren't. 3 days later, I found the first HOA violation notice taped to my mailbox. Improper trash can placement. Vehicle parked too close to the curb. Landscaping not up to community standards. I stood there on the sidewalk reading it twice, then walked back up my driveway and checked everything. My trash cans were exactly where the CC&Rs said they should be. My car was in my driveway. The landscaping was exactly as I'd purchased it. That night I pulled out the HOA documents and read every line. Then I took photos, time-stamped, clear, undeniable. I sent a polite email to the board with the evidence attached. Linda never replied. Instead, she escalated. Over the next 2 days, her white SUV started appearing at the edge of my driveway every morning. Never blocking it, just close enough to make a point. Another violation notice arrived. Unauthorized mailbox modification. A lie. Then another. Excessive outdoor lighting. Another lie. Each notice felt smaller than the one before, pettier, and somehow more aggressive. I documented everything. Photos, dates, times, a growing folder on my laptop the same way I'd built cases my entire career. Still, I told myself not to overreact. This was just HOA nonsense, right? Petty paperwork. Power-tripping retirees. I didn't want to be the angry new neighbor. I didn't want to be the stereotype. By day 5, though, I could feel something heavier settling in my chest. That morning I was watering the rose bushes along the front walkway when I heard her voice cut across the lawn. You think you can just ignore the rules. I turned the hose off slowly. Linda was marching toward me, face-flushed, finger already raised. I know about your illegal fence modification, she snapped. You didn't submit any permits. I haven't modified anything I said. You're welcome to inspect it. It's exactly as I bought it. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive now edged with anger. You people always think you can do whatever you want, she said, moving into neighborhoods where you don't belong, thinking the rules don't apply. Something in me tightened. I'm asking you to leave my property, I said, my voice low but steady. Her hand shot out. She shoved me hard in the chest. My foot caught on the hose. The world tilted, and then I was on the ground, pain flaring up my arm as it scraped against the stone border of the flower bed. For a moment I just lay there stunned, looking up at the sky, listening to my own heartbeat. Linda stood over me, breathing hard, her face twisted into something ugly and triumphant. "Who's going to believe you?" she hissed. "My husband was a police captain for 30 years. I know how this works. It'll be your word against mine." She smiled. "And sweetheart, I always win." I got up slowly, brushing grass from my clothes. My arm was bleeding, but I barely felt it. "That was assault," I said. "I'm asking you one last time to leave my property." She laughed and walked away. I looked up at the small red light blinking under the eaves of my porch. Every second had been recorded. 15 minutes later, the sirens came. 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing. Neighbors gathered like moths. Linda stood across the street, tissue pressed to her eyes, sobbing like she'd just survived an attempted murder. "Ma'am, keep your hands where we can see them," one officer said. "We received a report of an assault. Linda Crawford claims you attacked her without provocation." There it was, her story already cementing itself in their minds. I held my hands at my sides. "That's not what happened. She came onto my property and shoved me. I have the injury right here." I showed them my arm. One officer glanced at it unimpressed, then looked back at Linda as she wailed. She grabbed me and threw me down. Linda cried. I was terrified for my life. I felt that old familiar weight settle over me, the knowledge of how easily the narrative can turn against you. One of the officers stepped closer. Her hand hovered near her cuffs. For the first time since I moved in, I felt truly powerless. And for a split second, I wondered if this was my fault. If I should have ignored the comments. If I should have let the violations slide. If buying that house had been a mistake. But then I heard my own voice, calm and clear. "Before you do anything," I said, "you need to review the security footage from my cameras." Linda's head snapped toward me. "She's lying. There are no cameras." I pointed to them. 3 small units, red lights blinking. "They've been recording since Tuesday." The officers exchanged a look. I reached into my wallet, slow and deliberate, and held out my ID. "My name is Naomi Harris," I said. "I'm the Attorney General of this state." Silence. The confidence drained from Linda's face like someone pulled a plug. The officer's posture changed instantly. Not deference, but caution. Professionalism. They watched the footage. Once, then again. Linda marching across my lawn. Linda shoving me. Linda walking away smug and certain. Johnny Gonzalez appeared at my door. I saw the whole thing he said. She pushed her. The pieces locked into place. 30 minutes later, the police chief herself arrived. Linda was arrested on her own sidewalk, screaming about connections that no longer mattered. 2 months later, she was convicted. Simple assault, filing a false police report, criminal harassment. The HOA removed her unanimously. I stood on my porch one quiet morning after it was all over, coffee in hand, azaleas blooming again. The same place I'd been told I didn't belong. And I realized something. Power only works when people are afraid to challenge it. Truth doesn't need permission. And silence is the only thing that ever lets bullies win.